Dear visitor, welcome. I am your guide, and take you through the wonderful city of Hulst, and border region with Belgium. Hulst originated in the 11th century as the Hulst settlement at the current Grand Place. Hulst received city rights from the Flemish Count Philip van den Alsace in 1180 and developed into an important fortification in Port City. Hulst has 4 ports. These are the Double Gate from 1771, the Graas or Begin Gate from 1704, the Ghent Gate from 1780 and the Keldermanspoort or Double Gate. The first 3 ports are still in use. The latter served for shipping and the supply and removal of goods. This gate is located on the north side of the city. Here you have a view of the Double Gate. Until the year 1845, the city gates for the protection of the city were closed in the evening with heavy doors. For centuries, Hulst had a navigable connection with the Schelde sea route. In the Middle Ages, Hulst developed into a port city at the end of a channel that ran from Kampen to the city. The port became the engine of a small but thriving trading city. The prosperity of those days can still be seen in monuments such as the Basilica and the Town Hall. The 80 Years' War put an end to this prosperity into the medieval harbor channel. In and through that war, 2 new connections were formed with the Westerschelde, one from Sefting and one from the Hellegat. This made Hulst accessible by ship. However, the prosperity of yore would not return. Due to the changed economic circumstances, the financial resources were not available to keep the port channels properly navigable. The port died a slow death around 1800. The Keldermanspoort, also called Bulwark Poort or Dubbelpoort, was the western city gate in the Dutch city of Hulst. It is located in the 3.5 kilometers long city wall and was both a country gate and a water gate. At the invasion of the Gentenaars in 1491, the then still open bulwark was destroyed. The strength was expanded and strengthened after 1506, but during the 80 Years' War, military operations made another ruin. In 1618, the remains were incorporated into the earthworks of the new Brederode poles and have since become invisible. After rediscovery, excavations and restorations took place from 1959 under the direction of P.J. Fire. The restored port remains are registered as a national monument. The 3 other gates of the city of Hulst have also been preserved. These are the Double Gate, the Ghent Gate and the Beguinage or Groen Gate. Although Hulst had a friars' monastery from 1448 to 1645, it took until the end of the 19th century before activities were developed in this area. The video you see now shows the wall that enclosed the 15th century Franciscan monastery. Under this Gravenhof line, staff of the Archaeological Services Center have found remains of the old monastery church. It is the Minderbroederskloster that settled in the city in the 15th century. It was a rectangular monastery with an attached monastery church on one of the sides. When Frederick Hendrik conquered Hulst in the 80 Years' War Hulst, the monastery was closed. Then the building served as an orphanage. Later also sick and elderly people joined, and the church became an ammunition store. Around 1825 the church was demolished and Brewery de Habman came to stand on that spot. That too has now been demolished. Now we continue along the quay towards the center of Hulst. Here you will find cozy restaurants and bars. The Steenstraat is the most stately street of Hulst. Here you will find the most historic buildings, such as the Museum de Vier Ambachten and Landshuis. One of the buildings with a rich history is the former refugium of the Abdij ten Duinen. The Museum de Vier Ambachten has been established there since 1979. The stately home from the 16th century offers accommodation to the collections of the oud-Oud Kunstgring de Veer Ambachten. There are also annually changing theme exhibitions. At the end of the 12th century, there were 4 areas in the area of the Count of Flanders with a legal and administrative authority granted by the Count, 4 offices. The word craft is derived from office and has nothing to do with the old word labor. In the mid-13th century these 4 crafts started working together as de Veer Ambachten, with which the name was born that the museum still bears. It concerns the craft of Ascend, Axel, Boekhout and Hulst. A remarkable sign on the facade of the beautiful building points out to the visitors the presence of the museum. The building, located at Steenstraat 28, is originally from the 16th century. At this location in the centuries before it was Steen, the prison of Hulst. In the course of the 16th century, however, the building came into the hands of the Abbey Tertullian. This used it on the one hand as a storage place for grains and on the other hand as a refuge within the safe city of Hulst in times of need, refugium. In the 17th century the building was let to the commander-in-chief of the Spanish army as a residence. After the conquest of the city of Hulst in 1645 by the Dutch troops led by Frederick Hendrik of Nassau, Prince of Orange, the refuge was seized and transferred to the House of Orange. From that time on, the beautiful building with its remarkable late Gothic octagonal tower served as a residence. At the end of the 18th century the building was rebuilt rigorously. For example, the facade was raised by about 1.20 meters and the slate roof was replaced by a tiled roof. The beautiful side steps with natural stone bands in the staircase tower are still in their original state. The last occupant sold the building in 1973 to the municipality of Hulst, after which the building, after extensive restoration, was put into use in 1979 at the oud-Oud Kunstgring de Veer Ambachten. As of November 20, 2006, the museum is operated by the Museum de Veer Ambachten. The Basilica of St. Willibrord is a basilica located in the center of the fortified town of Hulst. She is dedicated to the missionary Willibrordus. From a distance you can see 60 meters high St. Willibrord's Basilica towering above the skyline of Hulst. The basilica stands on the highest part in the center of the fortified town and was built in the 13th century in the Brabant Gothic style, with beautiful stained glass windows and a beautiful organ of French Flemish architecture. In May 2009, the church was elected the most beautiful church in the Netherlands in the NCRV radio program Plaza. The spire has been replaced several times. The first peak was destroyed in 1668 by lightning strike. In 1724 a new spire was placed in classicist style. This was destroyed by fire in 1876. Then a new tower was placed according to a design by Pierre Cuypers, because the tower was a vantage point over the Westerschild. This was destroyed in 1944 by Polish liberators. In 1957 Jan Brouwer won a competition for a new design of the rush hour, and Brouwer's design, with the title De Prediker, was built. The tower is crowned by a Christ statue surrounded by angels and tuning forks around the bells. Parts of the design of Cuypers and also of the 14th century the church was built as a Roman Catholic church, but became a Dutch Reformed church in the 80 Years' War by Frederick Hendrik. This remained until the time of Napoleon, when a simultaneous church was made, the choir got the Catholics and the ship remained available to the Protestants. A wall was erected between them. Since 1929 the church has been completely Catholic again when they bought the ship from the Protestants. These got their own church at the Uitmarkt. As a result, Pope Pius XI elevated the church to basilica in 1935. Here I come to the marketplace of Hulst. Many cozy bars to relax in the city. You will also find the town hall. The Hulst City Hall is a Gothic building from 1534, located at Road Mark 21 in Hulst. It was designed by Laurens to Keldermans and Willem van Sassen. The first town hall was destroyed by Gentenaars in 1452, so that a new one was built in 1455. Emperor Maximilian I granted the double eagle to his imperial city, which in 2012 crowned the steeple. This building was set on fire by Hulstenaars in 1485 in their fight against Ghent. From 1528 to 1534, the current town hall was built, made of leadstone. It has a distinctive, square, slender hall tower of 5 sections with an octagonal brick cut-out crown. The front facade has a platform. At the back of the town hall the meat hall was built, which later became the function of the weigh house. In 1796 the structure had become dilapidated. During the Belgian War of Separation, 1830 to 1839, the building served as a barracks, and from 1844 to 1846 the building was restored. However, it was also changed. The Gothic sculptures were removed and new elements were added, such as a gate in Doric style, and the octagonal brick lantern. When the steeple of the St. Willibrord Basilica was destroyed by fire in 1886, the arms of Hulst in Flanders, from 1663, were added to the town hall. From 1949 to 1951 the town hall was restored by G.M. Sturm and Henry de la Sanet de la Sablonnière. The wooden tower crown was a design by Elias Canman. There is a star vault in the tower and the old catchlet was also found during restoration. In the council chamber are some paintings, including one from 1628 view of Hulst, made by Cornelis de Vos and the Righteousness of Jacob Jordaens. Furthermore, there is the Burgerhuis clock from 1634, cast by Johannes Burgerhuis. At the Grand Place 24 you have the communal office, a building that played a major role in the history of the city of Hulst because of its inhabitants. It is a combination of older, smaller houses. Notary Willem Seelitz bought the building in 1815. At that time he was responsible for refurbishing the building and renovating the facade in the form that we can still see today. The building remained in the possession of the Seelitz family. During the occupation of the Second World War, the German Ortskommandant stayed in the building and in 1974 the building was sold to the municipality of Hulst by the heirs of Seelitz. The municipality wanted to restore and expand the building to house part of the civil service. The costs of these plans, however, were comparable to the costs for new construction, so that eventually the building was restored and sold in collaboration with Monument and Zorg to the Rabobank, which was opened here in 1990. A few years later, the adjacent building, Grand Place 22, was pulled through the bank building. Both buildings were later sold to the municipality that established the communal office. Bourdeleu was founded at the beginning of the 16th century as a refuge of the Abbey of Bourdeleu from Ghent. The monks of this abbey have made a start with the empoldering of this cult. The refugia. The monks of the abbeys of Bourdeleu, Van Duinen and Cambron have won allotted land on the water through empoldering. They worked on the lands and had a sort of flight monastery in the city, the refugium. Behind the town hall on the market is still the turret of the Refugium Bedelu from the 13th century. The rest of the building dates back to the 16th century. It was used as a court by the Cistercian monks after the beggars had destroyed the Hoofdezand. In 1645 it was confiscated by Prince Frederick Henry, hence the name Prinsenhuis. The building with its characteristic turret is situated in what used to be the garden of the Bedelu complex. The Franciscan Sisters of Mariadal managed this building complex, consisting of a monastery, a boarding school and a number of school buildings until the late 1980s. In 1992 the building was stripped of all adjacent buildings and returned to its original state. This beautiful building now houses the Zeeland Music School and has set up a historic concert hall. Now I continue through the streets of Hulst to the city walls. From the city walls you have a beautiful view of the city skyline. A walk on the 3.5 kilometers long city wall gives a beautiful view of the fortress with its striking turrets and on the other side of the city canal and the surrounding landscape. On your walk you pass the 4 city gates, where 3 gates still serve as entrance to the fortress. On the east side of the fortress is the Poort, popularly called Poort. It was founded in 1704 by Mayor Benjamin de Beaufort. On the north side you enter the fortress along the Double Gate. In the past, the enclosure mainly consisted of stone walls. Because they were not resistant to the later use of guns with gunpowder and metal bullets, around 1600 began with the construction of an earthen wall with bastions. Now I continue to the city mill of Hulst. The Stadsmolen is a flour mill on the Nieuweg in Hulst. It is a round bricks mill from 1792, covered with oak and with a flight of 24.42 meters, and was in operation until 1930. Initially the mill was part of the fortress as the mill was state-owned and then became Zeeland's mill. Then the mill fell into disrepair. In 1954 the municipality bought the mill, and it was completely restored in 1956. During that restoration he got the current name. It is one of the few mills with a wooden hoop. Now I continue on the city walls along the double gate and walk another kilometer to the other side of Hulst. Here a beautiful view from the double gate. After a kilometer I arrive at the shopping street of Hulst. The shopping street is very popular with the Belgians because Hulst is close to the Belgian border. But now we will visit the Gate of Ghent. At the southern entrance of Hulst you will find the Gentse Poort. As soon as you pass through this gate and turn around, you will see 3 stone trophies at the top of the gate. The middle carries the Generality weapon, the sign of the United Netherlands. The Ghent Gate is the only gateway to Hulst where a road has been laid aside. Freight traffic comes in this way, but in history this happened because of the construction of the tram line. Because of the curvature in the gate the tram could not get through. The curvature in the gate was made at the time to prevent the penetration of enemy bullets. When you enter Hulst, you quickly come face to face with the most famous tourist of yesteryear. The Reinaert monument is located at the Ghent Gate. It is a bronze cast image of Reinaert de Vos with a hard stone background, which shows the court of King Nobel. The statue was made by the Dutchman Antoine Damon in Antwerp and presents a court scene from the animal story. Reinaert de Vos is in pilgrim clothing for the court of King Nobel the lion. You also recognize Bellen de ram, Concheclier the cock, Kutwer de haas, Tybert the male, Bruin the bear and Isigrim the wolf. On the right Iceland is the raven on the gallows, and on the left in the background you see the towers of Hulst. You can clearly see how the tower of the Wilibertus Basilica looked like before the Second World War. Now I go through the shopping street to the market square of Hulst and after a few city streets outside the city to the Belgian border, which is about 5 kilometers away. Hulst is only 5 kilometers from the border, but at 15 kilometers you already have a large Belgian city, Sint-Niklaas, and you can also visit the forest. The railway is no longer in use and has now become a cycle path. You can cycle to this city by bike. It is a route without cars. But now we are going to the Belgian border. A busy road. Welcome to Belgium. Flanders. Now I'm going back to Hulst. On the way you will meet the sign of the Netherlands and welcome to Zeeland. As you can see, you can easily cross the border by bike. This was the film Hulst in Border Region. Made and filmed by Eric Hazenbrooks. Supports Eric Hazenbrooks movie projects. You can give a gift with PayPal to his mail address.